Excelsior! Oh. Someday I'll find out what that means.
Hey there, folks. This is Aaron, AJ Waseska here for you. And with me today is Ryan Metters.
Yes, sir.
And today we're doing something a little different. First off, happy Thanksgiving to y'all if I managed to get this out on time. If it's not on time, then maybe happy Black Friday for those. And I feel
Black Friday is never happy for anybody.
Well,
who are you lying to?
I had a good deal once where I got Batman Arkham City for like $30 at launch.
Yeah, but then you have to run out and beat people to death to get the sale. It's not fun.
Actually, it was a very calm and very efficient line at Best Buy that year, but I know it's not the same everywhere. So I feel bad for the retail people out there. So for any of you guys who work in retail, just know that it gets better. Black Friday's not forever.
Black Friday is only one day, guys. We'll be with you at the end of it. I'm sorry.
And if you're not a retail employee, then please treat them with respect and don't chew their ear off with your bullshit. No one wants to hear you complaining, because in the end of the day, your complaints about material possessions are mundane and trivial compared to the stress and anxiety the retail people feel dealing with your assholery. So yeah, let's get on the topic at hand here. So, for those, I'm sorry to start with jokes, but we're getting to a serious topic today, and we're hoping to keep this episode short. I can't promise that. We're going to find out today. Recently, as of November 12th of 2018, for those who follow this podcast regularly, you will already know that Stanley Martin Stanley Lieber has passed away, for the full name there.
Stanley Martin Lieber?
Yep.
Yeah.
For those who don't know who he is, and I can't imagine there's a lot of you at this point, he is one of the writers and publishers and editors behind the comic series, the comic book franchise. You might know them as Marvel. It's a little indie thing. Not that big a deal.
It's a little indie thing. Sure.
He was active from the 1940s up until the 2010s, and the thing he's probably most famous for currently, and with the younger generation now, is his various cameos within the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which we did a whole series on, discussing those movies, which you can click the link down below to check all those out. A lot of fun there. And we also talked about Stan Lee in our Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 episode, didn't we?
Hey, fellas. Hey, wait, where are you going? Hey, you were supposed to be my lift home. How'll I get out of here? Hey, gee, I've got so many more stories to tell. Guys, gee.
Yes, we did. Oh, my God. Yeah. The Watchers. Oh, my God. The Watchers. It was the best.
Yep. If you want to hear us talk about our favorite Stan Lee cameos, please check that out. We're not going to cover that here because I don't want to repeat ourselves. But, yeah, we're not going to
It's a good episode, guys. You should check that out. We had a lot of fun on that one.
We did. And we're not going to get very many more of those. I imagine, what, you think 3 more, maybe?
Maybe.
Captain
honest to
Marvel.
God, if he shows up in Avengers 4, I'm gonna, weep tears. I'm gonna, be sobbing at the sight of him.
Dude, he'll be in Captain Marvel for sure.
He should be in Captain Marvel for sure. But I think if they manage to get his cameo for Avengers 4 filmed, then, oh my God, it will be amazing.
Well,
and we will all weep.
From what I understand, they filmed all of 4 already, and they're doing reshoots maybe, but they're not doing anything else beyond that. And it sounds...
Then I'm hoping to see him in there.
Yeah. Well, from what I've been reading, and there's a lot of stuff that's been coming out since his passing, they do record his cameos in bulk, because he does not like flying, and it's more convenient just to get them all done at once if they can. So there's a good chance that they got 4 done, and maybe Spider-Man Far From Home. That's still ways out, but it is next year, so there's a chance that's already done too.
No lie, I can honestly see even if they have Spider-Man Far From Home done, I can see them writing that out and having his last cameo be the culmination of Infinity War. I could see that.
Maybe.
I think it would be a neater end to the era.
I also wouldn't mind. I don't CGI him in these future movies, but maybe do something like just have his name in different spots and stuff like that. Just something subtle, very simple. If Eagle Eye fans are out there,
You gotta have your homage to the creator. You gotta have your one moment where you see it and you're like, yeah, that's my guy. Stan, what are you doing over here? That's all.
And so we figured we'd do a quick episode here. Like I said, keep it short. Just doing a small tribute to him, kind of discussing, the stuff that happened in his life, some of our favorite moments of Stan Lee's, like cameos, comic appearances, just his persona in general. He's a very eclectic individual. He's got a lot of strange stuff that's gone on in his life. Nothing horrible by any means, but he's got a colorful life behind him. Let's put it that way.
Mm-hmm. He does.
So I'm going off the Wikipedia page here, so if those are anyone out there wants me to stop at some point, let me know. I'm going to do a quick read from his early life, and we'll skip ahead a little bit. So Stanley Martin Lieber was born on December 28th of 1922 in Manhattan, New York City, in the apartment of his Romanian-born Jewish immigrant parents, Celia and Jack Lieber. And his father was trained as a dress cutter, worked only sporadically during the Great Depression. They kind of came from a very poor family for the most part. Like I wouldn't say like they were incapable of doing stuff, but Great Depression era. Not a lot of people were doing good that time. So,
I mean, it was the Depression, so yeah, I agree with that assessment.
And then from what I remember reading, he did work alongside various people, such as I can't remember that guy's actual name, but the Dr. Seuss writer. They both did, I believe they both did writing or illustrations during World War II to help out with the front. I don't remember exactly what this article is not saying much, but I do remember reading something about that.
Holy shit, why can't I remember Dr. Seuss's actual name?
Trust me, when someone's going to read it and put it in the comments, I'll be like, oh, that's what it was. My bad. For the while, though, he did work at Timely Comics. He became an assistant in 1939, and let's see, what else do I got here? Timely, by the 1960s, would evolve into Marvel Comics, where Lee would kick things off with a superhero team to rival that of the Justice League, because Timely wanted, or I guess Marvel at the time now, wanted to kind of get in the competition. And Ryan, do you know what Stan Lee's first big team-up comic was?
Man, the first?
Yes, the first. I mean, he did
honestly,
Captain America
my guess,
and other things, but what was the first Marvel team-up he did overall?
Wait, the first Marvel team-up or the first established Marvel team?
Yes, that one.
I would guess Fantastic Four.
You are absolutely correct. From what I've been reading, from everything I've seen, that's kind of where we started off, and the idea was...
Like, Fantastic Four is old school. I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty sure if we're talking about, like, the first Marvel team to show up on the scene, I'm guessing it's the Fantastic Four.
Yep. And the reason behind that, based on what he said in various interviews, is that they were charged with making a team to rival the League, and the one thing he noted, which he carried into his work... well, he worked with other people like Jack Kirby and whatnot, so I'm not going to say it's just him. Steve Ditko as well. They all had big hands in the original Marvel stuff. But one of the big things about it was that they wanted a team to rival Justice League, and not in the sense of power, not in the sense of ability or coolness. They wanted more relatable characters, because you look at the DC lineup, and I'm not trying to diss DC in any way. They still have some great characters, great stories, all that stuff. And we're going to do...
But they're gods, man.
And we'll do stories about... We'll do movies covering them here very soon. But, yeah, Ryan, you're basically right. They were gods. They were they were two-dimensional in a lot of senses of the word. Like, and especially back then, they were just so... beyond
they were
human.
They were highly removed from the normal plights of like everyday people.
Absolutely.
Which like again is it's not a criticism, but it's a difference that has carried throughout like even today. The biggest like differences between DC and Marvel are that the bigger like the Justice League, they're all so far removed from humanity that, I mean, it's crazy. They are the new pantheon of this world, whereas Marvel, they tried to keep their heroes ground a little closer to humanity with a lot more issues that they had to deal with.
Well, and a good example is, like, just look at Superman, for example. He's this big, omnipotent figure, more or less, who can be anywhere, do anything, and if you put him in the sun long enough, he will become basically like a golden man who can do anything. Whereas if you look at Marvel... there's really nothing like that. There's no character with a weakness to kryptonite. They all have flaws. They all have problems with that they have to overcome. And it's not something they overcome once and they're done. It's a constant struggle, which makes it all the more real because in day-to-day life, Ryan, I don't know if you go through this like some people I know, but anxiety, depression, the various job problems you'll have, market industry, all that stuff, it's a daily thing. Your daily constant problems you're going with and struggles, and Marvel seems to capture that part of life really well while still having the fun superheroes in their underwear fighting crime and stuff.
Yeah, and I'm sure we'll get a lot of people looking to argue this. We will absolutely be tackling the DC lineup and commenting probably towards the end of that on our read on the differences between Marvel and DC. But we will get into that. I know it's been a debated topic over the years. We'll definitely put our piece out there later on, but keep on listening and you'll get to hear us talk about it too.
Indeed. But yeah, so then you have characters like Spider-Man come on the scene, and he's a high school kid who gets powers, and his major struggle is overcoming this whole responsibility thing and trying to understand that with these powers he has to do good things with them. And that is something that a lot of characters in that series follow. You have Tony Stark overcoming alcoholism. You have the X-Men being a civil rights kind of stand-in. You have the family issues and drama of the Fantastic Four. A lot of the stuff you just don't see in the DC at this time when these comics come out. And arguably,
at that time,
and I don't think you see a lot of that stuff still. Maybe not, you might more now, but not nearly as much as Marvel tried to hit it back in the day. So, yeah, they were really trying this. And in the end, Marvel did have various issues. They did go bankrupt a couple times, which is why we're in the situation now where where Fox is being bought out by Marvel to get the X-Men back. But, you know, it's still an interesting saga of events that led up to all this.
Very true, very true. And it would not have started without the man of the hour, whom we're all here to discuss.
Let's see. Okay, so here's a part of the Wikipedia entry here. It's a little further down. Years later, Kirby Lee would contest who deserved crediting the Fantastic Four. Comics historian Peter Sanderson wrote in the 1960s. DC was equivalent to big Hollywood studios after the brilliance of DC's reinvention of the superhero in the late 50s and early 60s. It had run into creative drought by the decade's end. There was a new audience for comics now, and it wasn't just little kids that traditionally read the comic books. The Marvel of the 1960s was, in its own way, the counterpart of the new French wave. Marvel was pioneering new methods of comic storytelling and characterization, addressing more serious themes, and in the process keeping and attracting readers and in their teens and beyond. Moreover, among this new generation of readers were people who wanted to write and draw comics themselves within the new style that Marvel had pioneered and pushed the creative envelope still further. Skipping down a little bit here. Let's see. Where is... So, throughout the 60s, Lee scripted, art directed, and edited most of Marvel's series, moderated letter pages, wrote the monthly column called Stan's Soapbox, and wrote endless promotional copy, often signing them with the trademark motto, Excelsior.
Excelsior. Goddamn.
So the 60s were definitely 60s to the 70s were definitely a time when Lee was kind of getting this big personality going. And what's funny is, I was watching a video from Movie Bob. I don't know if you've seen his stuff at all. He's a film critic over on The Escapist and whatnot. He did a video recently where it talked about how big a persona Stan Lee was and how he made himself and the bullpen at Marvel like their own characters alongside the Marvel characters themselves.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, they would put themselves out there. You'd see their faces on various promotional materials. You'd see them interacting with people, doing interviews and whatnot. And you even see them making cameo appearances in the comics themselves from time to time. It's cute stuff. It really is. And what's amazing...
It's good, yeah.
What's amazing is this sort of personality and persona that Lee kind of created along with these guys is something kind of equivalent to what you see today with the YouTube or Twitter crowd, except he kind of pioneered it. He made it happen. Like, obviously it's a much, much older version of what we have now, but mean, he did it without the technology. He did it without all that stuff, and look where it got him. It's fucking ridiculous.
Everybody knows who Stan Lee is. Literally everybody. Like, with his passing, everybody commented on it. Some good, some bad. And those who said bad things about it are currently getting shit on in the press, which they absolutely deserve.
Should we take a minute or two to discuss that real quick?
Man, I didn't mean to disrupt you. I was just like, God damn it.
No, we can bounce around. This is a tribute. This is all talking about how great Stan was, and we can address some of the current issues going on. So, yeah. Ryan,
I mean, here. So here's my issue: is that Stan Lee. His primary like addition to society and the world in general is our beloved characters with excellent stories that everybody got something out of. Everybody knows what Marvel is. Everybody has at least one favorite Marvel superhero and can point to something that really affected them in it. Like if they got into comics, then Stan Lee was a big part of a lot of people's lives. How you can come out and be negative about this is a tad beyond me, because I feel like his addition to the human kind of saga has nothing but positives to it. He just created amazing stories that everybody enjoyed and a lot of people learned from. So who the fuck are you to talk bad about this man who just passed and who affected a lot of people's lives in amazing ways? Who are you to belittle that achievement?
And to add to that, more importantly, even up until his final days, and I literally mean like in the past year maybe, he was out there engaging with fans, seeing them at conventions, being part of this thing he created. He still was very much alive and spirited and wanting to do this stuff, even after the heartbreaking passing of his wife only a handful of years ago. I don't even think it was that long ago, maybe 3 or 4 years ago. I don't know exactly off the top of my head. But the fact that he was willing to engage with fans so hardcore, so devoted to this stuff, and still have all this enthusiasm for it. And for someone to come in here and say it doesn't matter, none of it matters, and it's his fault for things being dumb in America, I feel like Bill Maher, and I don't want to give him too much airtime, I feel like he is that kid on the playground who no one's paying attention to. So he's throwing shit at the popular kid and saying, hey, look at me, I can be an asshole and get attention. And all he's really doing is just flinging shit around like a little asshole. So I feel like Bill Maher realizes how irrelevant he is, and he feels dwarfed by a guy who he doesn't respect, a comic book peddler, to put it his way, I assume. So he wants to make the biggest attention-grabbing move of it, and he got attention. It's not positive attention, by any means, and he doesn't deserve any attention, period, but he's got it. And hopefully he will learn from this. He probably won't. And he'll go back off to his irrelevant corner of the internet where no one's going to listen to him ever again.
Well said. Well put.
Superheroes in New York? Give me a break.
Jumping from Bill Maher, let's go to other quote-unquote controversial things from Stan Lee. I don't want to drag up too much, but I did find something as I'm scrolling through this Wikipedia page that I found interesting here. So, in the late 90s, early 2000s, this Marvel movies had a bit of a renaissance in comic book films, where you get your X-Men, your Spider-Man movies. So, according to the article here, following the success of Fox Studios' 2000 X-Men film, Sony's then-current Spider-Man film, Lee sued Marvel in 2002, claiming that the company was failing to pay him his share of the profits from movies featuring the characters he had co-created. Because he had done so as an employee, Lee did not own them. But in the 1990s, after decades of making little money licensing them for television and film, Marvel had promised him 10% of any future profits. Lee and the company settled in 2005 for an undisclosed 7-figure amount.
Shit. God damn.
Can I get 7 figures for something, please? Anything?
I swear to God, once you hit the 7th figure, you're pretty much set for life. Honest to God, like I did the math, like maybe $3.4 million equates to about 70K for about 40 years, and you're like, that's fine. I can live off that. That's literally the rest of my days. I'm okay with this. So once you get into 7-figure territory, you're set. You're okay.
I feel like even $1 million I'd be happy with. Like, that's still a lot to me, and having all just ready to go and be like, okay, I can just parse it out over the course of years and just be very careful with my spending.
Don't get me wrong, like, I'd be perfectly fine with $1 million, but I feel like the $3 million mark is where you literally say, I don't have to worry about money anymore. That's kind of it. Like, that equates to about a 60K salary for the rest of my days, and I have it accumulating interest. Yeah, I'm fine. Like, $3 million is where you literally don't have to think about money anymore at that point. Unless you have expensive taste, at which point, then yeah. But if you're just a regular guy like me and like you, then $3 million is pretty much, we're done. We can do whatever the fuck we wish and like go travel and shit.
And of course, there's also some controversy from earlier in the days when they were still like working the comics with Ditko and with Jack Kirby, where it was said that Stan Lee would sometimes kind of sell it off like he was sort of the main focus or main creator behind everything, the main driving force. And I don't have any like validity to those rumors. I just know that is not uncommon in comic books. I mean, the creator of Batman, for example, has always been put as Bob Kane. Everyone remembers it being Bob Kane. Everyone kind of forgets Bill Finger, and he was part of that too. So co-creators getting left out of the spotlight, it's not uncommon, and I wouldn't be surprised if it happened here. I wouldn't put the blame on Stan, but it's possible. I wasn't there, so I couldn't say.
That's fair. That's very fair.
But going back to the lawsuit thing, though, that was not the only lawsuit to go on here. Let me go on some more here. In 2007, after Stan Lee Media, which is a company he started, had been purchased by Jim Nesfield, the company filed lawsuit against Marvel Entertainment for $5 billion, claiming Lee had given his rights to several Marvel characters to Stan Lee Media in exchange for for stock and a salary. In 2007, Stan Lee Media sued Lee, his newer company, POW Entertainment, and POW subsidiary QED Entertainment. Basically lawsuits left and right. It's ridiculous.
Good God.
Scrolling down a bit more, let's get to the end here. The end-ish, anyway. In his later careers, Lee contributions continued to expand outside the style that he helped pioneer. An example of this is his first work in DC Comics in 2000, launching the Just Imagine series, in which Lee reimagined the DC superheroes Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, and The Flash. Manga projects involving Lee, including Karakuri Doji Ultimo, a collaboration with Hiroyuki Takei, Viz Media, and Shueisha. I can't pronounce these words today. My brain's not there.
It's alright.
And Hero Man, serialized in Square Enix's monthly shonen Gangen with the Japanese company Bones, which I hear is actually really popular. In 2011, Lee started writing a live-action musical, The Yin and Yang Battle of Tao.
Interesting. Hold on. What? I want to know more about this.
It's down in his later years of his career, right before philanthropy. Fuck, I can't say that either. Yeah, I know, right?
Okay?
This period also saw a number of collaborations honor Lee for his influence in the comic book industry. In 2006, Marvel commemorated Lee's 65 years with the company by publishing a series of one-shots starring Lee himself meeting and interacting with various co-creations, including Spider-Man, Doctor Strange, The Thing, Silver Surfer, and Doctor Doom. These comics were also featured short pieces by such comic creators as Joss Whedon and Fred Hembeck, as well as reprints of classic Lee-written adventures.
Oh God, that sounds like that sounds like an excellent
Mhm.
series. Oh my God, I wish I had read it.
And then, of course, there's more stuff here, such as fictional portrayals. He's had various cameos within the comics. You can definitely check all those out. It's stuff from... let's read a couple examples here. He's been in a few What If comics. He's been on Fantastic Four number 10. He was in The Howling Commandos number 100. Spider-Man 169. As a bar patron in Marvel number 3, 1994. He was at Karen Page's funeral in Daredevil Volume 2, number 8. He was also the priest officiating Luke Cage and Jessica Jones' wedding in New Avengers Annual number 1.
Pause. Sorry. Did you say Luke Cage and Jessica Jones?
Yeah, they get married in the comics. Having watched the TV show, it really weirds you out, doesn't it?
Stop! Oh my God. That's interesting. I'm sorry. I'm taking us off track. That just threw me for a loop.
He appears in Generation X, number 17, as a circus ringmaster narrating a story set in an abandoned circus. He also was in Stan Lee Meets Superheroes in 2007, which I think is what we discussed just a minute ago. He's also been in other comics from other publishers, such as DC Comics. He was Funky Flashman for those. He was also mentioned in Michael Caban's 2000 novel, set in the early industry, The Amazing Adventures of Cavalier and Clay. He was under the name Stanley Lieber. He appears briefly in Paul Malmont's 2006 novel, The Chinatown Death Cloud Peril. And lastly, for published works, he also appears in 2013's The Violent Century. He appears as, again, his own name, as a historian of superhumans.
I love it. Oh my God, a historian of superhumans.
And of course,
perfect.
we already know many of his live-action appearances in TV and film outside of the Marvel shows. Let's see what else he's got here real quick. We're getting close to the end. I don't want to take too much time here. Let's see. Film and television outside of the MCU, because I want to get this down. Let's see. He was in the TV movie The Trial of the Incredible Hulk. He also made a cameo appearance in the web series called Superpower Beatdown, where he plays a man reading a newspaper who tells Spider-Man and Darth Maul to keep the noise down or else he will get angry.
Stan, please!
Apparently it was in 2017. That's fairly recent. Pretty cool. Let's see. Lee has a cameo in short promotional advertisement called Spider-Man Homecoming NBA Finals, which aired on ABC as a promotional for Spider-Man Homecoming, as you would imagine. The 90s, he hosted a documentary series, The Comic Book Greats, interviewed notable comic book creators such as Chris Claremont, I love that guy, Jim Lee, Todd McFarlane, Rob Liefeld, and, I can't pronounce this one, Wireless, fuck it, I'm not gonna say it, I can't. No, it actually is a weird name. I'm going to put it in the Skype chat, and you can try to pronounce it real quick.
Yeah, hold on. Yeah, let me see this.
Tell me how you pronounce this one.
Wireless Portasio.
Okay, we'll go with that, because my brain can't do it. He also hosted and judged...
Although Wireless is a very interesting
He also hosted and judged contestants on the sci-fi series Who Wants to Be a Superhero? That sounds pretty fun, actually.
That sounds like a great
He's
show.
appeared with director Kevin Smith in 2000's Marvel editor-in-chief Joe Quesada in the DVD program Marvel Then and Now, An Evening with Stan Lee and Joe Quesada, hosted by Kevin Smith. You probably could just put the title. I would have gotten what you were talking about there. He appears himself in Excelsior Acquisition, the third season episode of Big Bang Theory. I'm not going to talk about that more because it's Big Bang Theory. He plays a bus driver in the 16th episode of Heroes. He plays him. He's also in the 7th season of a TV series called Entourage. He was also in Eureka, The Guardian. He appears in The Guardian in the October 7, 2010 episode Nikita. As Hank Excelsior.
Of course. That's a great.
He's interviewed in a 2011 documentary Superheroes. He portrayed himself at a CIA party in the 5th season of Chuck. He was appeared in the 11th episode of season 5 of The Guild.
Oh,
Yep,
what?
which he was captured at a convention by the character Zabu's Master Chief cosplaying henchman.
Oh my god! He was in the fucking guild! What?
He was in various animations. I know he was in one of the Spider-Man episodes. He's actually been in all the Spider-Man cartoons from what I can see here, at least in some capacity.
I know he's been in Big Hero 6. That was a fantastic...
He voiced the character Jerry in an episode of Stripperella. Superman the Animated Series, he was in that as well. He's been in so many animated shows. I could be here all day reading this shit. Video game appearances. We play video games. Let's do a couple of these real quick. He was in 2000 Spider-Man, 2001 Spider-Man Enter Electro, and 2010 Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions. He was also in the newest one, from what I understand, as well. Yeah, I think he makes an appearance in the newest one. I don't know where exactly. Let me see if I can find it real quick. It's probably near the bottom of the list.
I'll put that shit on right after the podcast.
Stanley makes a brief cameo in Spider-Man 2018 as a short order cook.
Where?
I don't know. It doesn't give me any more information.
Man, what?
He was in the various Lego Marvel games. He really does seem like he's attached to Spider-Man the most, though, and I'm not surprised. He's probably the most popular Marvel character for the longest fucking time.
I don't know about most popular, but I could definitely see it being Stan's favorite.
Well, consider the fact that Spider-Man was the first, if not the only, Marvel character to receive a Japanese adaptation.
Yeah.
He is definitely worldwide the most popular of the Marvel characters, and arguably the most popular superhero period, with Superman being the close competitor for him. It's a close one.
Alright, I can see the argument. Wait, I'm sorry, did you say Superman being the closest?
There are also various adaptations of Superman, such as an Indian Superman I've seen once.
Oh, so you're talking about the most famous American
well, comic book characters, but yes.
Yeah. Okay. That's fair. Yeah, Superman. It's like Spider-Man. Spider-Man is up there for Marvel. No lie. We're so happy when he came.
Yep. So I'll do a quick rundown of his personal life, and then we can wrap up with any final thoughts. Or do we want to just go into? Do we just want to go into like kind of our? I've been talking a lot, Ryan. You want to say a few pieces before I, keep going?
Okay. Wow, nice suit.
Zip it, Stanley.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, we're here today to pay homage to a man who has birthed thousands of stories, many of which that have had personal ramifications to a lot of people's lives, including my own. I got a lot of life lessons, just like basis of philosophies from his characters, and he came at it with the idea of just creating stories for people to enjoy, and also just share bits of his personal wisdom throughout them. And he had so much of it, like when you look at the stories that he was a part of and that he helped create and helped put out into the world. I mean, these are fantastic stories that have shaped so many lives. I'm just glad to be part of a program that will pay homage to this man in his passing, because he has no doubt left the world a better place for his time here.
The first time I've ever seen Stan Lee in anything was the Spider-Man animated series back in the 90s. You remember that, Ryan? Right?
Oh, God. The 90s Spider-Man? Yes.
I will say, it was not my favorite episode he showed up in, because it seemed kind of hokey that he just shows up out of there and it's like, hey, Spider-Man, I want to hang out with you for a minute. It was kind of hokey and goofy, but looking back on it now, it just shows he loves his creations, he loves his work, and he doesn't take it overly seriously like so many people do. And, there's something to that, because there are a lot of creators out there who do take their work very seriously and get very defensive, and it's nice to know that he had a very open policy and honest sense of humor with it all, so it's cool. And he would go on to do some other cameos and other great stuff that I actually really enjoy. Like I said in the podcast, I think my favorite one is still without a doubt, the X-Men Apocalypse one. And I know that's not a good movie. We'll get to it soon, don't you worry. But just seeing him there watching the end of the world with his wife like that deserves a clap. That deserves an applause. That was really touching and well done. And I will say that my first thought when I heard he passed away was that it's good to know that he's done with all the health problems and having all these obligations to be everywhere, because now he can do the one thing he wants to do, be with his wife.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. The first thing that I saw Stan Lee in was Mallrats, actually.
Oh yeah, we talked about that came out a little bit too, didn't we?
Yeah, with Jason Lee and Kevin Smith and the View Askew guys, just having a fucking hoot, having a ball, and that one really sticks out to me because it's not Stan playing an innocuous character in like a superhero film. It's Stan interacting with one of the people whose lives he has changed, like in a major way, and he's offering some wisdom straight from the horse's mouth, pretty much. And of course, Stan was inevitably paid by his friend to go talk some sense into him, which was neither here nor there. But the gist of his interaction there, I felt, spoke true to his interaction with the fans, because, like you said, despite his age, despite his illness, he was still going out and doing events and interacting with the people who love his work. And I feel like that's one of the biggest things that he will leave behind. His work and the obvious love that he had for the fans of his creation.
Absolutely. I feel like we should probably wrap up here pretty soon. Like I said, we want to keep this kind of short so you guys can all enjoy your holidays. And I do have an audio clip at the end of this we're going to play, which was Robbie, one of our guests on the podcast, a couple times actually. You might remember him from the Dog Pound and all that. He donated a comment, and Erin says she's going to donate something soon too. I don't know if it's going to get in on time. We'll see. And hopefully we get other comments by the time this airs. We'll find out. But if you do have comments you want to add, leave them down below in the comments. Twitter, Facebook, Tumblr. Email them to us as well. We may even do a second episode where we just read your comments, because honestly, that'd be kind of fun just to hear what the community thinks. It'd be great.
I would love to do that episode, guys. Please flood the comments below so that we can do that second episode, because I would absolutely love to do that with you guys.
I have two things I want to wrap up with, though. So first off, and they're both to me pretty big gut punches. So get your tears or get your tissues ready.
Oh shit!
So,
all right.
So first up is from Roy Thomas, who has succeeded Lee as editor-in-chief at Marvel. He visited Lee 2 days prior to his passing to discuss the upcoming book, The Stan Lee Story. And he has stated, as quoted, "I think he was ready to go, but he was still talking about doing more cameos, as long as he had energy for it, and he didn't have to travel. Stan was always up to doing more cameos. He got a kick out of those more than anything else."
Of course he did. Of course.
And then various personalities from the MCU also tweeted out various different things, commented on social media various different things. The one that always got me when I read them was from Robert Downey Jr. himself, where he basically said, "Thanks, Stan. Wouldn't be here without you." So yeah, we're not going to for every big celebrity that passes. Obviously, we'd be here all the time doing this, because it happens seemingly every day, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But Stan Lee was one of those people who was kind of larger than life, you know? I think the last time we talked about someone in mourning this much was Satoru Iwata, back when he passed away. And I think prior to that was Monty Owen. We don't do this very often, but we do it for the ones that kind of hit us the most, I think.
Yeah. We have to pay homage to the biggest figures in our lives, the biggest storytellers who share their wisdom and their creativity with us and leave the world a slightly brighter place than when they left it.
And I'll say this, I'm not broken up super hard by Stan Lee's passing. Like, don't get me wrong, it still sucks, but like I said, he gets to join his wife. He gets to rest finally, and it's done. He gets to finally be done.
He was ready, and it was a full life. I am saddened, but I am glad that he gets to move on to the next chapter. You know what I'm saying?
So, yeah. For those who are watching our regular content, y'all just watched The Wind Rises, and next week you'll be watching When Marnie Was There, and then Christmas will be starting here in just a couple weeks, guys, so tune in for that. We're not going to plug Patreon here. The link will be down below, but we're not going to jump into that. You guys have heard us say it enough, and this is not the place or time to be talking about it in too much depth. Ryan, is there anything else you want to go before we cut to Robbie's final comment?
No, I'm making myself sad by doing this. It's a bittersweet thing. I'm glad we were able to do a send-off, but yeah,
Yep.
Go ahead.
Well, thanks everybody for listening, and we'll turn it over to Robbie, but we'll see you after the credits.
Bye, guys.
No. See, this was aged for 1,000 years. And the barrels built from the wreck of Grunhill's fleet is not meant for mortal men.
Neither was Omaha Beach, Blondie. Stop trying to scare us. Come on.
All right.
Excelsior.
Hi, this is Robbie Nelson, and I just want to record a short tribute to our guy Stanley that unfortunately passed away at the tender age of 95. I'm a frequent guest with the guys from evacstation on the After the Credits, and specifically talking about comic book movies that in part would have never happened without Stanley. And I grew up reading a lot of comic books. As the people that listen to this podcast probably know that I'm a big Batman guy. However, Spider-Man's one of my favorites, which was co-created by Stan Lee. And growing up reading those, the Spider-Man cartoon when I was a kid, which Stan Lee even cameoed on before the cameos were a thing, as well as X-Men. I was a big X-Men guy, and what's crazy is I never thought, when I was a kid, that we would have the universe that we do now. And it's, pretty amazing to think about that Stan had such a big hand in creating these characters that so many people love today. And, I am sad that he passed away, but thankfully we get, cameos down the road, and, we'll miss you, Stan, and thank you so much for creating characters that I love so much. So, with that being said, one last time, Excelsior!